Hello, everybody. My name is Anna. I am an educator and social media specialist here at the Duke Lemur Center in North Carolina in the United States. Thank you all so much for joining us for our conversation today. We are going to throw it on over to our team in Madagascar to introduce our awesome speaker.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marie-Rolande Souazafi. I'm from Madagascar and I'm a teacher at Cursa. And today we are happy to welcome our speaker. She is Seheno Andriantsaralaza. She got her PhD in plant biology at the Department of she studied in the University of Antananarivo, and she got her PhD in 2015. And she worked as a national coordinator of Reniala organization in the south of Madagascar. And now she works with Lemur Love NGO and also with Lemur Network Conservation NGO. And she published 5 scientific papers, and she also got a grant from USAID in 2020, and also from Explorers Club Discovery to lead a research project called Baobab, which means Baobab Protect. So thank you, Seheno, for accepting to join us today. We also address our big thank to the Duke Africa initiative for sponsoring this talk series, and also thank you to the Duke Lemur Center for hosting this virtual presentation. Welcome again, Seheno.
Hello, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marie, and thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really happy today to talk with you about my research on Baobab. So I'm going to share my screen so we can see it. Okay, so today I'm very happy to talk about Baobabs and their seed dispersal. How can we conserve this orphan plant? So I would like, before we will dive into the seed dispersal research, I would like to present you a little bit my background. Marie said earlier my little background, but I wanted to explain you my background and why I got in research on Baobabs, but also some facts about Baobabs, the seed dispersal and its mystery. There is a mystery, and I will explain you later. And then I will present an overview of our research on Aru Baobab project. So let's get started. I'm a tropical ecologist, and as Marie said, my background is related on plant biology. So after getting my PhD in 2015, I hold my first position as scientific coordinator at the Lemur Rescue Center, which is a lemur care facility in the south of Madagascar. And although I didn't have any expertise in lemurs, I had to learn a lot about lemurs, but this work drove me to really become a lemur passionate, and I learned how much lemurs are important, how can they suffer from being held in captivity. So I became, after this job, really passionate about lemurs and passionate about the conservation. And now I'm working on with Lemur Love and the Lemur Conservation Network. But behind of this new passion on lemurs, I have always been passionate about nature, about research, and particularly my research on baobabs. And that's why I wanted to talk with you today. So first of all, what should we know about baobabs? as you may know, baobabs are among of iconic species in Madagascar. Like lemurs, we know Madagascar because there are baobabs in Madagascar. Why? Because among eight species in the world, 6 of them are endemic to the country. So baobabs belong to the family Malvaceae and the genus Adansonia. And in the Africa continent, we have the baobab, the African baobab, which is the Adansonia digitata, as you see in the map. And in northwest of Australia, we have another species, Adansonia gibosa or Adansonia gregorii. But in Madagascar, we have 6 Malagasy baobab species. And I would like to give you just a quick presentation of the 6 Malagasy baobab species. We have this map which represents the baobab distribution, the last one actually. So we have 6 Malagasy baobab species. In the north of Madagascar, we have 2 Malagasy baobab species, Adansonia suaresensis and Adansonia pereri. And you may ask, how can we recognize the Malagasy baobab species? And in fact, baobabs, they are assigned in 2 sections or 2 groups based on their floral morphology. So for the Adansonia suaresensis, as you see in this picture, their morphology, the flower morphology is based on the short staminal tube and wide petal. So this baobab species belongs to the section that we called brevitube because there is a short staminal tube and wide petals. And the second species, Adansonia pereri, the flower has a long staminal tube and yellow petals, and this species belongs to the section longitube. So we can really recognize baobab species first based on their floral morphology. So these 2 species, as you see in this map, are found in the north of Madagascar. Second one, another baobab species, Adansonia za and Adansonia madagascarensis. Those species are widely distributed in the west of Madagascar, as you see in this map. Adansonia za is widely distributed from the north and even in east part or southeast part of Madagascar, we can find Adansonia za. This is because this species is really can have some adaptive traits on various ecological conditions. And also we have Adansonia madagascarensis. This species has also large distribution in Madagascar. So speaking about their floral morphology, Adansonia za and Adansonia madagascarensis belong to the section longitube. Why? Because as you see in this flower, they have Adansonia za has its flower with long staminal tube and yellow petal. And for madagascarensis, we have also the long staminal tube and red petal. The most common and known baobab species is Adansonia granditieri. We know this species, this is the alley of baobabs in Mondav, right? And the Adansonia granditieri belongs to the section brevitube. You notice the flower here, white petal and short staminal tube. And another way to recognize this species is its flattened crown. So actually we have this also for Adansonia suaresensis, but this is really a sign to recognize the Adansonia granditieri. And we have Adansonia rubrostipa. We can find this species as you see in this map, in the west part of Madagascar, in Moldova, in fact, and also in the southwest of Madagascar. Another way to recognize this species is its bottle-shaped trunk. So these are a short presentation on the Malagasy Baobab species. So let's talk about why we say that baobabs are also lifeline or source of life in Madagascar. This is because baobabs have multiple uses. Some baobabs are really important to some local people because they are linked to some rituals and traditions. And also baobab fruits and other parts of baobabs are used for cosmetic purpose or medicinal uses. Another use, which is really, really important in the south of Madagascar, baobabs are used as water storage. As you know, in the south of Madagascar, it's really dry. So some families use baobabs to store the water when there is a rain. They store water into the baobabs, and then when it's dry, they can use this water. So in this type of uses, when you say baobab is really a lifeline of Madagascar, it really makes sense, right? So these are some uses that people use the baobab fruits or other parts of baobabs. But this richness is under threat. And you see this picture was taken in the southwest of Madagascar. The biggest threat for baobab is its habitat loss because of the deforestation, the tavi or slash and burn. So you see, it's an empty forest, right? We cannot call this as forest. Baobabs are still here, but there is no forest anymore. So this is really a biggest threat for baobabs. But another threat, which is less obvious, is its loss of seed dispersers, of its animal seed dispersers. Why I tell this? When we see, you already see a baobab fruit, right? This is the baobab fruit, baobab pod. We call that baobab pod actually. And this is inside of these fruits, we have the pulp and we have the seeds inside the fruits. So you may ask, which animal can bring these baobab fruits and disperse their seeds? We can ask this question, and you see, as I mentioned here, the fruits is large and heavy. So you can ask, can this species, can this lemur disperse the baobab seeds? So before answering this question, we have also to ask, why do we think that animals should interact with baobab fruits? Let's take a look on what we call seed dispersal syndromes to answer this question. So seed dispersal syndromes are morphological characters of fruits and seeds that are correlated to particular seed dispersal agents. So, yes. So dispersal syndromes generally consist of 6 traits of fruit and seeds. So we have, for example, the fruit color, fruit size, or its weight, or some type of fruits that are fleshy, or a seed protection. So inside the fruit, how protected are seeds, and we have seed number. So these traits, thanks to these traits, we can determine which animal can disperse particular seeds. So because plants cannot move on another place, they have to rely on external dispersal agents to disperse their seeds and to constitute their next generation. So animals are among these dispersal agents. So they interact with fruits because fruits are their food source, and in return, they can disseminate seeds away from parent plants. And there is one particular dispersal mode we call that is endozoochory. So that means that seeds, animals eat fruits, and seeds have to pass through the gut of animals. So as you see in this picture, for example, some birds are attracted by certain color of fruits. They eat the fruits and they can disseminate or they can disperse seeds away from the plants. So for the baobabs, we have this question. So these are fruit chains, and we know that baobab fruits are large. Which animal can disperse or can at the first time eat the seeds and disperse their seeds? Well, this remains a mystery. And in fact, there are many plants in the world that whose seed dispersal remains a mystery. On 1982, Jensen and Martin mentioned that the first time that some plants in America have been dispersed by large-bodied, really large-bodied animals called megafauna, which were extinct 10,000 years ago. So Jensen and Martin mentioned that in their paper. And then in 2008, Guimarães and his colleague published another paper, and they say that in fact, many plants in the world relied on these large-bodied animals to disperse their seeds. One typical example is, for example, the avocado. There are no animals that can disperse these fruits right now, and in fact, we as humans, the distribution of avocado is really linked on human use, but we think that these type of fruits were dispersed by extinct megafauna, and this one particular seed dispersal syndrome is called seed dispersal anachronism, because the living plants have certain fruit chains that are adapted to be dispersed by animals that are extinct now. So, in 2008, Hansen and Galetti point out that there are other megafauna that were forgotten. In South America, we had megafauna, but in other countries, like in Madagascar, we have also megafauna whose extinction has similar effects on ecosystem as the megafauna in the South of America. And this effect is the loss of interaction between plants that rely on these animals to disperse their seeds. And from this, we assume that baobabs are among those megafaunal plants. The baobab fruits may have been dispersed by the extinct megafauna. And why do we advance this hypothesis? For two reasons. First, as I said earlier, baobab fruits are, the oversized fruits, really heavy, really large. And the second reason, baobabs are among the long-lived trees. In fact, the oldest baobabs has more than 1,000 years of age. For example, this one baobab at Nansonariposipa in the southwest of Madagascar, we call that the baobab grandmother, and this is one of oldest baobab trees. So, which extinct megafauna are we talking about? There were in Madagascar the giant lemurs that are extinct now. You see in this picture how big was the giant lemurs. Also, we have the elephant birds. Again, do you notice how big was the elephant bird? These are extinct right now. And the giant tortoises. In Malagasy forest, we had like 500 years ago, giant tortoises called species Aldabrachelis gigantea. Although we don't have any proof that demonstrates the actual role of of these animals on seed dispersal of baobabs, we made some experimentation in 2014 with captive giant tortoises in Timbazaza National Park in Antananarivo. So we gave baobab fruits to these giant tortoises. They were able to bring easily the baobab fruits. They ate the fruits, and in fact, the seeds remained intact in their digestive system during 15 to 23 days in their digestive system. And then we found more than 86% of baobab that were intact in their feces. And when we discovered that, when we got this result, personally, I was really shocked and I was really impressed. How can this be possible to have intact baobab seeds after passing through the digestive system of giant tortoises during 15 days? But this is a first proof that we may advance the hypothesis of seed dispersal of baobabs by these extant megafauna. And in Africa, in Australia, you might ask, okay, how the baobab seeds are dispersed in other countries. Currently, there are no depth studies on baobab seed dispersal, but some researchers mentioned the human-mediated seed dispersal in Africa. And in fact, in Madagascar, we can also talk about human that disperse the baobab seeds because we eat the baobab fruits, like, particularly the Dancina grandidiri. And this is also this has been proven in Africa. So baobab population in Africa are really linked to the villages. And also seed dispersal by water is another possibility, even in Madagascar for certain baobab species. And in Africa, some authors mentioned the potential role of baboons on seed dispersal of the African baobabs. But what we know for sure is that all baobab species have limited seed dispersal and poor dispersal rates. So the question is, what happens to the Malagasy baobabs today? How they can survive without their primary seed dispersers? So that is the question. And from this, we assume that maybe baobabs can be considered as an orphan plant. So to answer this question, we applied for the grant in 2020, and we got grants from Explorers Club Discovery Grants and from USAID with the peer-funded program. So with some colleagues, we work really on the seed dispersal of baobabs because we want to resolve this mystery, right? And we applied for these grants, and now we work on Aru Baobab project. So the main goal of this project is we want to investigate the seed dispersal of baobabs because it remains unstudied and we should know what happens to the baobabs. But at the same time, we want to propose some solutions to both protect baobabs and give solutions for the income of for human for the local people, because we know that baobab fruits are used by humans. They collect baobab fruits and they sell baobab fruits. So this can be one of source of their incomes. So we want propose and contribute to this both conservation and sustainable exploitation of baobab fruits. So just an overview of this project. So ARU in Malagasy means protect baobabs, but there is also an acronym. So A for assessment, we really want to assess, to evaluate what ecological condition can we have to ensure baobab survival and its persistence. But also we want to investigate, as I said earlier, the current seed dispersal mechanism. If there aren't any animals that have a role on primary seed dispersal, what happens today? What alternative seed dispersal mechanism can we find in forest? But also, and this is really important to us, the outreach. We don't want to just do fundamental research. It's important, but we have also to demonstrate evidence and to turn it immediately to action. And for that, we work closely with local communities. We explain to them why it's important to protect the baobab forest. And when we talk about local communities, we talk about conservation, because conservation is really about the people. We want to protect baobabs, but we want that for the benefit of local people. So in this project, we have some activities, and one of them, we implement the nursery. So if there aren't any animals that disperse baobab seeds and maybe other seeds in forest, humans have to do the job, right? So you have to restore the baobab forest. We have to restore those interactions. And that's why we implemented 2 nurseries in west of Madagascar, and we work closely with local communities for that. We also do some fieldwork activities. So we want to characterize the flora that are associated to baobabs. So we do some flora survey and fauna surveys. Also, we really want to observe any interactions that any animals can have with the baobab fruits, and that's why we put some camera traps under baobabs. And one thing that is really important also is to study or to investigate the fruit production of baobabs, because we know that baobabs are used by humans, right? They collect baobab fruits, and baobabs are sold in the local market. But we know that fruits are important for seed dispersal, as we explained. But how can we find the sustainable exploitation and conservation? So for that, we have to look at the capacity fruit production of baobabs. And so we have some preliminary results. What I can share with you today is that baobabs don't have any primary seed dispersal, but there is a secondary seed dispersal that we can consider. So when fruits are fall on the ground, some native and non-native animals can eat seeds, and they can have a role on secondary, not the primary one, but the secondary seed dispersal. And some baobab seeds are also predated. So these are some preliminary results. Right now, we are under compilation data and analysis data. So hopefully, I will have answer on the mystery of seed dispersal, but right now we know for sure that there is a possibility of secondary seed dispersal of baobab. So we observed some interesting and promising results based just on the fruits that we found. Some pulp are consumed by insects, and So insects can have also a role on seed removal of the pulp, because the pulp can, without pulp, seeds can germinate easily. So these are some preliminary and promising results of under our project. So that's what about Baobabs. Before closing my presentation, I really want to close my presentation with sharing some message to you that today. So many people always ask me how you, Seheno, got into this scientist world, the research world, and being a conservationist. Yes, it's me hanging a baobab tree, and as you notice, I'm really passionate about baobabs. Everything for me begins with passion, but it's not enough. And I know, and you noticed from my background, it's a hard work and there are many, many challenges. But one message that I can share with you today is never, never give up. There are some times that I'm really struggling with research and say, oh, I can never pursue my research again, but I never give up. And I know for sure that I must continue my research on baobabs. Another fact, it's really important because it's for the research, but we are also conservationists, right? So another fact is that we know, and this is the sad reality, we know that, and we always talk about that for Madagascar, 86% of the biodiversity are found nowhere else than in Madagascar. But at the same time, more than 80% of Malagasy people live under the extreme poverty. It's a sad reality. But for sure, I can tell you today, you as Malagasy scientists, you as Malagasy citizen, you from SAVA, yes, it's 100% sure that it's our responsibility. We should be involved at the first place, wherever you are, whatever our knowledge is, whatever resources we have, it's our responsibility to conserve because this biodiversity, because this is our legacy. So this is my take-home message to you today, and this ends my presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm really looking forward if you have any questions. Thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that incredible research that you've done and all of the mysteries left to be solved. And what an incredible take-home message. Speaking of Malagasy scientists and how so many of these students are just beginning their scientific journey, I would love to throw it back over to the team at CURSA if any of the students there have questions.
Thank you, Seheno, for I have one question because in southern region, Baobab is not so. We know that it has vitamins, magnesium, and we would like, if it's possible, to plant baobabs here. And is there a possibility that its flowers could be pollinated here and also dispersed?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, the first thing we should know, I talk a little bit about this, but the baobabs are really adapted to the dry forest, right? So that's why we find these baobabs in the west part of Madagascar. And yes, we can plant baobabs. The pollination, there are some research on pollination. So some sections of baobabs are pollinated by bats and other are pollinated by the insects, I think. But for the seed dispersal, I think it remains a mystery, but we have to do the job, right? And we have to plant the baobabs. There are also some non-native animals that can have a role on seed dispersal. For example, the potamocher animals, the pig, the wild pig in forest, they can have a role on in seed dispersal. And even lemurs cannot bring the baobab seeds when they eat the seeds. So you understand that seeds have to be removed, okay, from the fruits. But when we give the seeds to some lemurs, we also did an experimentation that seeds can be ingested by the lemurs and found in their feces. But in forest, the problem is that they cannot bring the baobab seeds. So if the baobabs are opened when they are fall, on the ground, some lemurs can eat the seeds. Okay, but the problem is really the primary seed dispersal, in fact, yeah. So I don't know if I responded to your question or.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, and another question from Cursa. How well do baobabs survive to fires? Are they fire resistant or not?
Yeah, that's a really great question too. Yeah, we found in forest, for example, in the picture that as I showed during my talk, baobab in fact have some fire tolerant resistance, but for the younger baobabs, it's really difficult for them to resist on fire. And it's really sad to see that some forests are burned and we have the baobabs, but some of them cannot resist on fire. So yeah, we have some baobabs have the fire tolerance, but not for long time. And for younger baobabs, they cannot resist on fire. So yeah, that's why it's another threat. The baobab, the habitat loss is really a threat for baobabs. Yeah.
And there are also some questions that have come up with our folks watching on YouTube. One of those is, are local people able to help with data collection or on your team in research at all?
Yes, yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, in fact, we work closely with the local people, local guides, and when we explained to them this mystery around seed dispersal, they are also so impressed, and they really want to fund, and they are looking for with us any faces of wild pig or lemur. So yeah, they help us a lot, and we realize that when we take time to explain and to explain to local people why this is important, they really want to be involved and to help on data collection on the nursery and these all of things. But because we explained that this forest belongs to them, right? So that's why it's really important to take time and to explain to them and to work with them really closely. Yeah.
And then you often see these photos of these large and iconic baobab trees. Do you often find seedlings or young trees?
Yeah, so that was the first observation. In fact, with some colleagues, and 10 years or 20 years ago, the first observation is that there is a really poor regeneration of baobab. So we found really a few seedlings of baobabs. So we think that there are two options. The one option is that since they are long-lived trees, maybe the demography of baobab population it can be varied. It has some variations. So sometimes we see seedlings and sometimes not. So maybe it's normal. But another thing is that we don't see baobab seedlings. So maybe there is a problem on seed dispersal. Or there are some baobab seedlings, but they cannot survive. And so we have also to look at the seedling survival, seedling growth in forest. So there are many possibilities, but in fact, we don't find many seedlings on baobabs in forest. Yeah.
So many good science mysteries left to be solved with these trees. We are running out of questions from YouTube. So if anybody is watching on YouTube and has some more questions, feel free to put it in the chat. And then we will turn it over one more time to the Cursa students if there are any more questions over there.
Okay, so from SAVA region, we don't have questions anymore. If from YouTube they have questions, they can go ahead.
Perfect. Then one other question from YouTube. I think you had it written down in one of the slides, but if you want to talk about it a little bit more, how old can a baobab tree get? What is the oldest that you've seen personally or the oldest that you know of?
Yeah. As I mentioned, the baobabs are among the long-lived trees, right? And one researcher, Patwood, he did do in-depth research on the baobab's age because it was also a mystery, not right now, but he did some radiocarbon datations, and now we know that some the oldest baobabs as more than 1,000 years of age. So really old, and that's why we also advanced the hypothesis of the seed dispersal by megafauna, because 1,000 years ago there are some megafauna in Madagascar. Yeah.
Awesome. And then for currently living species, do you ever see seed dispersal by radiated tortoises, or is it only the massive tortoises that can break open these seeds?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I don't really find the tortoises that can bring the baobab seeds, but because it's really thin and hard, the baobab fruits. We only did experiments with the giant tortoises, and they can really easily bring the baobab fruits. For now we didn't do experiments with the turtles, the smaller tortoises. Yeah.
And then a final question, kind of along those same lines. In your research with the trees, do you find yourself collaborating often with the folks who study the tortoises or the lemurs or kind of those other seed dispersers, or are you mostly focused on the trees and the seeds themselves?
Yeah, that's why I'm really fascinated about this. So what I have with the baobabs, because it's really, the mutualism, the plant-animal interactions. And I cannot just focus on baobabs because I know for sure that animals are really important, but I don't have any expertise on animals. So that's why I work, for example, with Dr. Hunzara Fatima, which is an expert of seed dispersal by lemurs, but by other animals also. And actually, I've worked with some specialists on giant tortoises and other specialists with the megafauna, because we have many plants that maybe they have been dispersed by megafauna in the world. So we want to collaborate. So it's really important, and that's the mutualism, right? So yeah, that's why I'm really fascinated about this research. Yeah, the collaboration and the networking, it's really, really important.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all of the students who were able to join us from SAVA. Thank you to everybody who joined us on YouTube. If there are any more questions that come up, feel free to send us an email. You can email us directly or join us for other chats, and we can get your questions to the right folks. We have another one of these talks coming up tomorrow at the same time. That's 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the United States. But we will be learning even more about plant-animal interactions with pollinators tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for sharing all of your amazing expertise with these incredible, iconic trees.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you so much from Sabah. Hello from Tana. And yeah, thank you so much for the invitation. It's really, really a great opportunity. And it was really exciting. And thank you.
Thank you, Seheno, for the nice presentation. And thank you again to the Duke Lemur Center for hosting. And also we are grateful to the Duke Africa Initiative for sponsoring this talk series. And you are again all warmly invited to join us for tomorrow talk with Miali.